How's it going, KastKing fans? This is Ethen Preston from Preston Outdoors. Got some tackle and a camera stand with me, going out to the end of the dock here at the lake, and we're going to do a different style of technique or what have you video for you guys today. Alright guys, in today's video we're going to be going over, like I said, this is a different style video. I want to talk to you guys about, this is more geared towards the people that don't have a boat, or you're going to a friend's house or a relative's place, and anywhere you're going to be fishing off, say, not so much the bank as it is a dock. Here I'm at the end of the dock here at the cabin on Lake Ida, and say I don't want to drag the boat out, or I have limited amount of time and I can't get out on the lake, main lake itself, but you can still catch fish and be successful fishing off the end of a dock. So this is kind of geared toward those people that, say you have a boat or some scenario where you find yourself fishing off the end of the dock, you don't have the storage to bring 10-15 rods. So what I've broken it down to is kind of three main styles of baits I would throw right away, and if I had to bring one rod, the general rule to cover all three of these styles that I would be comfortable with and be successful catching fish with. Now before I get into different techniques and lures and stuff like that, I want to talk about the rod that I would generally bring. I'm going to be bringing a medium heavy spinning rod, and I'll get into that a little bit later, why spinning and not baitcaster, and this is my personal preference. If you feel more comfortable after hearing all the different styles of baits I have that I'll be telling you about throwing a baitcaster, go ahead and do it. But for me, it's going to be a medium heavy. Today I'm going to be using the 7-1 medium heavy KastKing Perigee rod, and then I have this on a 3000 series KastKing Kodiak spinning reel. And I'm going to be using braid for all three of these techniques. If I was fishing in a different scenario, I probably would, maybe use fluorocarbon or something. But if I'm limited to a small tackle box and one rod, this is the setup I'm going to be bringing. So right away we're going to talk about each water column scenario, and first of course we're going to start on top. So we're going to start talking about topwater lures. Now I'm going to break it down into two different categories, and the goal of this is you're going to be able to take these techniques and these baits I talk about, and you're going to be able to bring one rod, and you're going to be able to bring one small tackle box and be able to walk out to the end of the dock and be successful. First off, with topwater, I know some people have different docks. Some docks are around, you have huge amounts of submerged vegetation. Well, either way, what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to use a topwater frog or topwater mouse, whatever you feel like, just something that's weedless and that's going to sit on top. If you have a lot of some emergent vegetation to where something with drop hooks or that isn't weedless would get snagged up on, a frog is going to make you very successful. But again, if you're not around a lot of submerged vegetation and it's a little ripply like it is here out today, doesn't mean you can't be successful using topwater. But here I have a bladed bait with big hooks on it, to where if you're fishing around emergent vegetation, you're going to get snagged up, and that's for sure. So these are both topwater, but just different ways of going about it depending on your situation. Again, most of the time I'll be using this style bait if we had emergent vegetation stuff out here. So imagine lily pads, emergent curly tail weeds, even weeds that are popping out of the water to where something with big hooks would get snagged up in. All over the country they got different weeds, but all I'm going to do, and again I have all these setups, have my drag on as tight as it can go. And if there was pockets out here, you're just going to fling that frog out there. And some people can do it different. If I want to keep that nose up of the bait, I'm going to end up having a high tip and moving like that. But if I like with a frog, I like a good walking action, and to make it walk, and I'm going to just be twitching that slack. And every time I twitch, I'm going to reel up a little bit, bring this frog in here and see if you can show it, see if you can see it. And now just make that frog just walk. That's basically how I'll be working this frog. And when you get a bite, you'll be really excited on a topwater blow up. You get a bite, just pause for a split second, allows them to pull this bait down, and then set the hook as hard as you can. And you're going to be cranking with your reel. That's why the drag is on high. Crank those fish to get them on top of the water, and bring them in, take pictures, kiss them, put them back. Again, still staying with the topwater section of baits. Again, we have this bladed style bait, a lot of rattles in there, big hooks. Here, this style, there's no emergent vegetation. And even if it was calm or windy, this bait's going to give you a lot of decent noise. So again, you fling it out there. Now this bait, I like to work it a little bit slower because it's going to cause a lot more action with the blades splashing and stuff. But even out here, instead of the twitching motion like a frog, I'm just going to kind of reel it up a little tight and pull it, make it spit a little water, and then a lot of pauses, twitch it a little bit more. A lot of weeds on top. Even if the weeds are right underneath the surface of the water, you're going to be successful in doing this. And don't be afraid to throw top water. If there is a little ripple like there is out here, if the fish are feeding up in the water column, they're going to be going after something like this. It makes a lot of noise and looks like a wounded bait fish sitting on the top for something to come and eat, and they'll be successful with that. All right, moving from the top of the surface of the water column, we're going to move just a little bit lower, and this bait depends on how long you want to wait and sink, but it's just your classic spinnerbait. Here I just have a Colorado spinnerbait. Color doesn't seem to matter, white and chartreuse, yellow, whatever color spinnerbait you want to throw. But again, with this one, same rod setup. And some people ask, well, why is spinnerbait not a chatterbait? Well, mostly for me, if we're fishing off docks, there's going to be some vegetation, and if not, most of the time you're going to be not as deep. I like to fish a chatterbait a little bit deeper than a spinnerbait. A chatterbait will work just fine, but today's video, something underneath the water, you know, like spinnerbait, chatterbait, something like that. Now, with your spinnerbait, it's going to be the same thing as you normally would throw a spinner. I'm just going to throw it out there, and I'll talk about that later, where you throw, but don't be afraid. I'm going to cast it out there, and this water is a little bit dirty, so I'm just reeling it in. That's all I'm doing. I'm just casting out, reeling it in. Let that bait just whoom, 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 and you just feel it. Feel some weeds kind of, you just kind of pull it off. This is all I'm going to keep my rod tip depending on where I want the bait. If I want the bait high, I'm keeping my rod tip high. If I want the bait low or there's not many weeds around and I can keep it lower, I'm going to do that. Now that I'm hitting weeds, so I'm just going to pull it out. Now I know I need to move my rod tip up a little bit, and just a slow and steady retrieve. You can twitch it, spin it, make that, when you twitch it and spin it, make that skirt dance a little bit and stuff like that. And that's basically all I'm doing with the spinnerbait. Now, not necessarily my bottom, but more my finesse technique that I'm going to be using fishing off the dock here is not just a plain hook. I'll be using a Senko style bait. Now the Senko is the slowest bait I'm going to be using out of these three that we're talking about, and like I said, it's most of the finesse technique that I'm going to be throwing. But again, you can throw it out deep, you can throw it to the docks, and all I'm going to be doing with this bait, throwing it, letting it sit. All I'm doing is letting it sit here, let it sink for a little ways, let it wobble a little bit on the way down. I'm going to reel up some of the slack, and I'm going to pull. That's all I'm going to do. Pull, and you're going to feel a fish. Actually, well, there's a bluegill. But I'm just going to pull the bait in, let it fall back down, let it sit, pull the bait in, let it fall, let it sit back down. And that's all I'm going to be doing. It's weedless. It'll slide through the weeds. If you have emergent cover, it'll throw it right on the edge of the lily pads or whatever. Put it through the holes of the emergent grass or whatever vegetation you have on top. Again, drag on high. So when you get a bite, now most of the time I tell people, I always do this scenario, when you get a bite, a bluegill bite is kind of like ding, 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 or and they'll kind of swim with it. A bass bite is going to be a thump, or when you're going to lift your rod up, you pull your rod up, it's going to be heavy. Now don't set the hook right away. That's the most problem I've seen with people I've fished with or seen, and you're using a Senko. Don't set the hook right away, because most of the time he could be just grabbing this tail. I mean, this is a 5-inch Senko here. He can just be grabbing this tail, and you don't know. So what I do is I pull on it a little bit and let him swim with it a little bit. I mean, don't let him swim with it for 2-3 minutes, because then he'll choke it and you might hurt the fish when he chokes it down there. But let him swim with it a little bit. And the bigger ones, the bigger bass aren't in a hurry to leave an area. You'll pull up and they'll feel that thump. When you pull up and it's heavy, he starts pulling that rod away from you, and they're just kind of cruising. They're the big dogs on the food chain. They're not in a hurry. Where a bluegill wants to get that worm and he wants to take it, he wants to take it away because something else bigger than him, if they like it, is going to come take it from him. Where a big bass or a bass is just going to take it away, set the hook really hard. Same way I was telling you with the frog, you're going to set the hook really hard to make this hook come up and pop out. Set the hook as hard as you can, Remember what I tell people, set the hook as hard as you can. Got this 20-pound line on there, and you're going to crank here too, because this Senko is falling down to the fish. Now the fish grabs it. Where's he going to go? He's going to go up undercover where he's safe to reload and strike again, or he's going to go deep and get you around the weeds. You set the hook as hard as you can, you crank them up, you get their head up, and get them on top of the water and bring them in. I'm going to have your frog style, your mouth style, something weedless on top, and your hula popper or bladed baits, something like that. 1 or 2 of those maybe. I mean, they don't take much space in your tackle box. And then spinner bait, most likely 1 spinner bait, 1 chatterbait. I mean, you could just have 1 of each. And then a Senko, again, I'm throwing those on 4 to 5/0 worm hooks. And the colors for Senkos, it's mostly just going to be that chartreuse color for a dark cloudy day. On a sunny day, I'm going to be throwing green pumpkin with red flake, and that's my go-to baits. So again, this is Ethan Preston for Preston Outdoors. If you haven't already, please go subscribe to my YouTube channel at Preston Outdoors. My Facebook page, Instagram page, and Twitter page are all at Preston Outdoors. If you guys could go give me a follow and like, that'd be awesome. Keep you up to date on everything that I'm doing over there. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the KastKings YouTube channel and all their social media outlets as well. I want to thank you guys for watching. Tune in next time.